in a social media feed, you don't get to ask questions. People just give
Yeah,
you answers.
that's true.
And then that's the actually the fundamental problem of social media is
Yeah.
people give answers to questions that you haven't asked yet.
Yeah.
And right. And sometimes like things you don't even want to know, but like that enters your mind and then suddenly you've done research.
Good morning, David.
Good morning.
Why is it
We
so
are.
awkward?
It's always awkward.
It's always
The
awkward.
beginning is always
It's
awkward.
how do you make the introduction? But
Yeah.
that just broke the ice. That was good. That was good.
Welcome back, John.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Yes, Dr. John Van Ornam back with us.
All right.
This was a popular episode. In case you haven't listened to the first time we had John over, some pretty interesting stories from his escapades in the ER and his supplement regimen. I don't know if it's changed, but we yeah. So very curious to see where today's conversation goes.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, John. So I'm gonna jump right into a couple things here because I'm really curious. So we've kind of talked offline about this, and I think this is one that maybe people talk a lot about, or maybe they go through ChatGPT or Reddit. What do you see with kind of some of the side effects? And we were just talking about this previously in terms of the association between anxiety and high uses of marijuana or THC.
I mean, anxiety, I think that sometimes that can be like as far as like THC, there's definitely like a chicken egg kind of a thing where it's
Sure.
you're anxious, you have marijuana, it makes it better for a few hours, and then like it might help you sleep, it might help like however you use it, it makes you kind of like changes your approach to things, and then so there's like a seeking component where it's like you already are have anxiety internally, organically, and then like you seek it. I'm not sure. Like I think there's some sort of like limit, I guess, like where um, obviously if you take too much marijuana, you can also see the effects of it becoming like a panic attack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have like acute agitation, like it makes your heart rate jump. You
Mm-hmm.
have paranoia. So I don't know. I mean, like, I guess you could say that there's like a balance where it's like in everything, I guess you take some like small amount, you have a little bit of effect.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be different though for somebody else who's like used to it or like has a stronger metabolism that like metabolizes it out. So, I mean, I hesitate to say that that is the relationship with everybody, but there's there's definitely some sort of like just like with alcohol, there's like a calming effect.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like at higher doses, like you'll exhibit like a different effect. Because like with some people with alcohol, like they don't become calm, and it actually like
Mm-hmm.
unmasks them, and they become like very disinhibited, and like they actually become
Belligerent.
yeah,
Yeah.
like very belligerent. So for each person, it's different, obviously. But I do see, I don't know, it's as I'm thinking through it, like I'm just thinking like if I were to design a study, which like I don't do research, but like I know enough about research and how research is done that like I'm just thinking, you would have to find a way to single out like the reasons why people take it, what their predisposition is as far as like
Sure.
anxiety or like not really anxious people, and then what effects it would have on people, and then there would definitely be some confounding variables in there too.
Sure. Yeah, I feel like one of the challenges with that is that really to get a true, double blind study on a substance like that is actually way harder, I think, than people realize.
Right.
It's not just as simple as saying giving someone a survey or asking people to come in who have never quote unquote experienced anxiety or something of that nature, because usually to do research, or I should say in many cases, like for new drugs or that sort of thing, your people get paid, right, to do certain studies. Like I remember I did a study once for the University of Knoxville, I think, or UT
You
Knoxville.
participated?
Yeah, just because I was
Okay.
really curious about like how the
Yeah.
process would look, and it was funny because it's
Mm.
like, and they were always doing these things like. They were always like, "Hey, yeah, you can just be aware of these are some of the risks associated. We'll give you this much money to come in here for a weekend." And what ended up happening was like, I started, and I need to reframe this, but I got really close to the date, and then for some reason I didn't end up going to do it because for whatever reason. So I shouldn't say I did the study, but those things were always available, and I think that the money factor is always one in which, okay, like maybe I'm an occasional user, but I can say that like I don't or haven't had, you know what I mean? Like people don't actually quite, I think, understand like, no, it's really necessary that you've never experienced anything like this before. Like it's really necessary. So
Right.
yes, it's a quick payday, but like it's almost like giving plasma. Like,
Yeah. It's,
um,
I mean, that's actually, you're right. There's a selection bias.
yeah,
There's like
exactly.
people
That's the
have
right word.
this
Thank
like
you.
bias already prior to coming in, and there's like people will self-select. Like there's the type of people that will actually choose to look at studies. So like there are people out there who will never look to be a participant in a study.
And they
And
actually should.
yeah, probably because like they might actually be fundamentally different. Like they might actually be in a different class of individuals than the people
Yeah.
who are interested. Like 'cause it takes a certain kind of mind to search for things that are new, search
Mm.
for like, or they're under a certain set of circumstances where they're like, I need to make money. But like, most people who think I need to make money, they're not like, I need to go like be a participant in a study. Like that's like if the judgmental person who sees a homeless person on the side of the road asking for money doesn't say, why doesn't that person just go and join a study and get some money, right? Like you don't like, right?
Right, right.
Um,
Yes.
Yeah.
right. So it's like that's not a natural pathway. And then like
Sure.
partly because it's not necessarily a reliable thing either.
Yeah.
And the studies don't pay a lot. Like they pay you and they pay you to be there and they might pay for some food while you're there. And like so it's not a bad gig, but like it's
Yeah, I think this must have been 15 years ago now, or maybe 20 years ago now. Yeah, it was probably 20 years ago now. It was like $250 for the weekend,
mhm.
which at that time wasn't bad, but you're also like that. It was like 3 days,
Yeah.
so
Like
it's
Mm.
not that much.
Yeah.
no.
If you have
It's
some other
it may
plans,
be
you're
Yeah.
not going to be.
right. It's like
Mhm.
kind of maybe minimum wage
Hmm.
for 3 days. That's what, $80 a day, maybe I don't know how
Yeah.
many hours, maybe like six
Yeah.
hours, like even if it's 6 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Mhm.
in their mind the perk was, hey, just lay on a bed, and if you start to get itchy and scratchy, or then sorry, just hope you're in the placebo group.
Right. Yes.
But
Um, but yeah, I mean like different um I think it would really depend, like you'd have to reframe like your question a little bit, like
yeah.
maybe refine it a little bit, like
Hmm.
what do anxious people seek out marijuana? Another question would be like, does marijuana tend to make people more anxious and at what like peak concentration or what dosage, like relevant, like um
Yeah. I remember when I worked at UTC, this was a really common thing that we'd run into, or at least it appeared to be common, in that you'd have students like during the first part of the semester, either they were rushing, so typically there's a lot of drugs going around, but then there was high doses of alcohol and then marijuana. And so typically you'd see what we thought at the time to be like uh, psychosis induced from high doses of marijuana, but
mhm,
to determine whether or not that was actually the case was always really tricky, because
right.
then it turned out, okay, well, maybe there's some other substance possibly. But at that time, and I wish I could pull it up, I don't remember where I found it, so maybe I'd need to ask chat or something. But at that time, I seem to remember there was a study that looked at what point anxiety appeared to peak and at what milligram dosing. And I want to say it was around like 12 and a half milligrams.
Hmm.
The only tricky part though is that, and I remember even back then, which that was a long time ago now, I would ask people, okay, yeah, how much are you smoking, or how long will, say, a quarter ounce last you? Because at that time, there were still just, say, rolling joints. Some people were using wax, but that was less common, and you didn't really see it in carts or vapes yet. But now, like in a vape or a cart, like it's like way harder to determine how much you're actually taking and to what quantity.
I definitely agree. I mean, like, it's a moving target too because like you don't know how long it's been sitting out. It degrades over time.
Hmm.
Heat will degrade it. Like, and then you don't know, like, you're not going to calculate the THC content versus CBD content in each,
Yeah.
like, like,
Hmm.
it's, like for the same reason that, I don't know, I think the pharmacokinetics and are like really, like, you don't know what you're starting with.
Hmm.
Exactly. Like it's not like you're taking like 5 milligrams of amlodipine, a blood pressure pill, like which is purified,
Hmm.
it's like crystallized, and you know exactly what you're taking. Like this is an herbal compound that like they put a milligram on it to like guesstimate, and then there's a percentage of THC in that, and then you're like all you know is that like more or less you can qualify it. You can just say like this is a low dose, this is a
Hmm.
moderate dose, and this is a high dose. And then like relevant to maybe your weight. Um,
Yeah.
so like in kids or animals, you have to like give it based off of like a weight-based dose.
Sure.
Um, and and so you're kind of just like saying like if I'm 200 pounds, then like my dose might be different from somebody else.
Hmm.
Or also like if you're like a frequent user or like you are a hypermetabolizer or you're a frequent alcohol like consumer, then like you might metabolize a lot faster. I don't know, but um,
How often do you see, or do you still see Epidiolex being used?
oh, sorry, what was that?
Epidiolex.
Tell me what that is.
I've never heard of that.
Oh, sorry. So that was a medication that was actually derived from THC
Okay.
to treat seizures, I believe initially.
Mm.
Um, and I don't know that maybe it isn't still used anymore. I just remember. So I did a training with. Um, this was years ago, and we were going through like ADHD medications and that sort of thing. And one of the medications that came up in the training was Epidiolex.
Hmm.
And um, actually, that may have been
Yeah.
it. Anyways, sorry, it's
No,
running together now.
I'm just like
But
looking at it right now.
yeah,
I've never seen it used, but it looks like it's the target conditions are like rare.
yeah,
Um, like I think I've seen it looks like it's Lennox-Gastaut syndrome, Dravet syndrome, or tuberous sclerosis, which lead to severe treatment-resistant seizures. And
yeah.
I probably have seen like maybe 3 people total in my life with tuberous
Wow.
sclerosis, and probably I can't even remember if I probably have seen maybe at least one like Lennox-Gastaut,
Wow.
and I don't believe I've ever seen a Dravet syndrome, but I'm never like looking out for that. And like the people
Yeah.
that you see, um, I would have to do some more digging, but I
You're not
would
sure if
imagine,
that's why they're coming in.
yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
also they may not have a high life expectancy, and so you're not going to see a lot of them anyway. I don't know
Gotcha.
for sure, but
Yeah.
that's my guess.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I like, well, and so it brings to mind though, because it seemed that okay, to try to make, but obviously it's not used that often now. So it begs the
Yeah.
question, well, how well does it actually work? Right. Now, granted, yeah. So I think it just seems like in a lot of ways over the last 5 to 10 years, there's been so much hype about like, oh, thank God, like they're finally legalizing it in so many different states and like
Mm.
decriminalizing, which I actually don't have any beef with. But I think that the interesting part is the amount of benefits that people associate with it that don't seem to readily be there as much as people think.
Yeah, I mean, so it looks like also just like I love actually, to be honest, I would do multiple um podcasts just with like Googling or just like I love actually like I love the I don't know. I have a mixed like feeling on AI. Like I do think that like AI like really enriches like your learning. It leads to things that you wouldn't have learned otherwise. But like I'm always asking like at what cost. But
Well, it can
one
be
thing that I
wrong a
really
lot.
yeah, right.
Like,
And then
sorry,
like
go ahead though.
to what end also is the other question.
Yeah.
But what I do enjoy doing is, and what I'd really love to do in the future as well is like, we have so many different ways that we learn about the things around us. And a lot of it is, I'm going off on a tangent, but I'll come back. A lot of it is based off of, like in the last 15 years, it's based off of pushing, like more and more. It's like, information is pushed at us and then we learn
Mm,
it. And because it's usually
Mm,
through a feed, um,
mm,
and
yeah.
it's not necessarily like polling. And what I do like about AI is you can actually pull information,
Yeah.
you search something, and fortunately, right now, the way the state of information is and the way that AI draws from information, it is drawn from largely I'd say accurate, like largely accurate-ish data, depending on what it's trained on. Like you could say, I know that there have been like clear issues with like Grok, the way that they've like counter-trained it, and
hmm
I don't know what that is. Sorry. What?
Grok is
Yeah.
it's
I
an
don't.
AI, one
Okay.
of the
Gotcha.
AI platforms. Yeah,
Grok is Elon's AI.
Elon
Oh,
Musk.
gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's
That's
trained on Twitter, and then they like for instance, I don't you since you didn't know what Grok as like a background, like
yeah.
there have been like multiple issues with Grok being fine with like generative AI based off of like pictures of like children or something, like making
Oh.
like sexually inappropriate things with children
Oh,
or like
gotcha.
allowing for more or less like hate speech or something like that to be propagated
Gotcha.
or like in a generative way. So you can like
Yeah.
use it in like a less censored way than
Mm-hmm.
how like OpenAI or Google Gemini might use it. Um, and but it's more or less like if it's trained and under like supervision, so like Claude, Google Gemini, Chat, like those are trained under supervision to the point where they're reflective of the general like knowledge base.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so they're going to give, if you ask it questions, they're going to give answers that are not necessarily colored by a bias. Whereas like your social media stream is by definition almost like colored by a
Sure.
bias.
Well,
hmm
I might say that I don't know. I think to some degree they are colored by. For instance, and this is what I might suggest. Like if you ask, okay, generate a treatment plan for me for a client dealing with post traumatic stress disorder,
Mhm.
and largely what it's going to generate is a treatment plan that's also rooted in attachment based work in a therapeutic context. But the trouble with that is that there's many different schools of thought as far as what are actually reliable and clinically accurate. So th- you have to know what you're looking for still, because it's I would say that when it generates that plan, it is colored by that bias, because we can't there's still a lot of information there we can't actually fully determine is okay, this is accurate, this is true. um
Do you think that that chooses that though because that is the most common thing?
yeah, so I think it chooses it because it's the most common, but just
Yeah,
because it's the most common doesn't mean it's necessarily the most accurate in what we need to reflect in a treatment plan.
right. I think that that's a different bias than what I'm talking about, where
Okay,
like
gotcha.
um where it's if you because that is the first thing that's going to show up for you on like your poll. But you're right. If you, um, based off of your prompts,
Yeah.
you could get a more diverse um, layout of information.
Yeah.
You could say, what are the types of approaches to
Yeah.
management of PTSD?
Yes.
And can you give a brief description about each one and what is the most common way? Like,
Yes.
so if you ask like that, then like you'll get the information that you
Hmm.
want. So like it's all based off of your questions. But the thing is, in a social media feed, you don't get to ask questions. People just give
Yeah.
you answers.
That's true.
And then that's the actually the fundamental problem of social media is
Yeah.
people give answers to questions that you haven't asked yet.
Yeah.
And right. And and sometimes like things you don't even want to know, but like that enters your mind and then suddenly you've done research.
Hmm.
Like your
Yep.
research is
Yeah.
listening to someone else give
Yeah.
you the answers, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the
Um,
Yeah.
most I can't tell you how many couples have come to me where one partner's uh like my partner wants me to implement this new parenting strategy, and then they'll be like, "Yeah, it's backed by the research." And then they're like, "Well, you just send me like a reel. You send me a reel. You send me a
Yeah. That's not.
TikTok."
That's not.
Well, it's like, well, actually, but there's a TikTok of
It
a
has research
therapist.
on the
Right,
TikTok.
but it's a TikTok of a doctor, a therapist, and then there's like back and forth, and it's you know they it's like legit counsel,
yeah,
therapy. We have to do couples therapy over these fights, Yeah.
I mean like that to me like really it skeeves me out a little bit. It's just like because in the end, if you just take this picture of like you just zoom out. And like this has bothered me ever since like it really bothered me during COVID because like
Sure.
I would see like this was actually the crux of it for me
Mm.
when it really started to get under my skin. Um it was where back in COVID like July maybe of like 2020
Right.
um COVID hadn't hit all of the states yet, like really
Yeah.
that hard,
Yeah.
right? Like, and it hit Boston really hard starting in March. There was like, if you don't remember, there was a Biogen conference, which is like a pharmaceutical like company that's up here. They had a really big conference with it was like huge super spreader event. And this
Oh,
is
gotcha.
after like New York was like already
Okay.
hit, like in
Okay. Yeah.
like
I remember New York being. Yeah. Okay. And then you're saying Boston. Okay.
yeah. So like I think people from New York came to Boston for the Biogen conference and then within like a week to 3 weeks after the Biogen conference, it was spreading all over Boston. And it was kind of crazy because it also not only did it hit the members of the conference, but people you wouldn't think of, the people who clean the hotel, the people who
Yeah.
like were,
Yeah.
and so
Hmm.
then it spread immediately to the communities like around where like, people who like lower income communities who like live in closer spaces to each other because Boston is an expensive place to live. And so a lot of times like people would live like 6, 10 people in like a 1,600 square foot or like
Yeah.
2,000 square foot space. Then they're all got it. And then like they spread it to their like peers,
Hmm.
their friends, their colleagues. So back then, um, the like on social media, there were people like I remember on Facebook, it was like made me so angry. They were like, there aren't they say that the emergency departments are packed, and I'm going to go into this emergency department. And I don't see anybody here. How can it be
Oh.
packed? Right?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't happening. It's not for real. They're making
Yeah.
this up. They're just doing this to make a bunch of money because the government's going to give them money.
That had to
So
be
they're like
infuriating.
accusing hospital systems or like doctors or nurses of like making up that people are dying. They're making up that like they're saying that they're just doing this to like make more money for themselves
Mm.
when like there's a fundamental misunderstanding of like how healthcare works in general um and then a fundamental misunderstanding of like how to like they think they're reporting but they're not actually like understanding what's going on behind the scenes
Wow.
and then they're going to use some like maybe healthcare worker in like who
Mm.
works in an urgent care somewhere to
In
justify what they're
Nebraska.
saying without
Yeah.
actually trying to search for a
Yeah.
counter opinion that disproves what they're saying.
Yeah.
Um, and so like that really bothered me because what that does is like they they amplify their voice, other people hear it, then they've heard the answers without asking the questions, and
Yeah.
then they start asking like they start questioning without actually seeing the other side.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and if you like transplant that to any other like issue, um, it's like politics or like health or all that other stuff, vaccines, like you end up running into this same thing where people just parrot what other people have said and
Yeah.
they question what other people have said and then they say, well, you're not looking at the other side when they also haven't looked at the other side and they're not weighing the like
Yeah.
all of the information. And then they also have an emotional attachment to where they heard it first.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing where like most people
Or
discount.
emotional attachment to the anger that they have for
Yeah,
where they heard it from.
you're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like it's because you're right. Information is not just information, it's information and emotion,
Yeah.
which is like I think purely encapsulated uh in like Fox News.
Well, I mean,
Where
let's be fair. Like it probably goes both ways.
well, let's also be fair. It was started by Fox News. So like
That
what
maybe. I actually, to be
yeah,
fair, I actually don't watch either. I don't watch Fox or CNN. I
Yeah.
and
at
I'll
all,
explain.
really. So
I'll
yeah,
explain. So like the
yeah.
reason why, so if you look back, so like Roger Ailes started
Okay.
Fox News,
Yeah.
um, and back this was shortly after there used to be a law that said that you if you're presenting news information, you have to present
Mhm.
both sides.
Sure.
And then that law was it ended I think sometime in the 80s, like
I
late
didn't know
80s.
about that law actually.
I didn't either.
Yeah,
That's
look it
awesome.
up.
That's
Um,
awesome. Yeah.
right. So then,
It
like news organizations, all they could do was they couldn't have like a strong bias or sway. They could present like one side more than another side,
Hmm.
but they still had to present both sides. And
Hmm.
that law still exists, I believe, like in either Europe or Australia or maybe some European countries. I'm not sure exactly, but um, and so that law was done away with back in like the 80s, and then so Roger Ailes, who is like Rupert Murdoch's like chief at Fox News,
Hmm.
um, created Fox News to be this opinion news network, and then
Hmm.
CNN followed, as well as like other
Sure.
organizations. But Fox News was made to be an opinion news network.
Hmm.
Um, and so it was, I'm going to present the news, but we are going to present the news with an emotional slant, and we're going to change it
Hmm.
to make money. And what makes money is not just like no one really appreciates the news for the news sake necessarily. It's what emotions does the news bring out on you?
Yeah. And what
And
can we pull from?
right. And what actually
Yeah.
sells the most is fear.
Sure.
Like good like feeling good about the news doesn't sell as much as actually like
No.
fear. And the other
Or
thing
anger.
is um things that are detestable. Like if you like the one of the best things is like some a violent thing that affected someone that's like you. Like that's one of the biggest selling things, right? Like
Sure.
if someone who looks like you or someone who you can relate to is affected in a violent way, then automatically that translates to, hey, that
Yeah.
could be me,
Yeah. You attach to it.
right? And
Yeah.
and so then automatically their enemy has now become your enemy. And
Sure.
and you're automatically looking out for like how do I prevent this from happening to me? How do I keep this from happening to my family?
Hmm.
Um, right? Like you're thinking of strategies, and then you want to amplify that too, like to other people who are like you, like your friends, your family. And I feel like that's just like a natural human reaction.
Yeah.
Um, so once I think like once you know that, once you can take advantage of that in people, and so then like if you are the first person to report news in a from a certain perspective, then you actually gain an advantage because people all automatically have a bias for where they heard something first.
Sure.
wow.
Yeah.
So that first of all, I want to research that law because it's a that I feel like it was such a hinge point for news in the especially in the States. right? Because it's heavily pathos. It's not logos, right? It's
Yeah,
opinion
no,
based, meaning emotions, right?
it's all, yeah, that's
Which
everything
also has
now.
spilled over into social media, right?
Right.
And then the danger of that is we're not just getting our news information from these heavily emotion based content platforms, but also our health information,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so, what do you think about? Do you feel like there's any w- way to navigate social media? Because there are things. I think people have learned a lot from social media in terms of just like being exposed to things that they didn't even know existed regarding health, right?
Right.
So maybe you could argue that there have been some benefits. But yeah, do you think there's a way we can advise people, whether it's patients, clients, on how to wisely navigate finding health information on social media, and then what's the merits of then using AI for that as well, like an AI doctor, right? Like for
Right. Right.
medical advice. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think um obviously you for every person, they're gonna have there's some blanket rules in health. Like if we're talking about like general information, then and like, okay, so like what are the signs and symptoms of a heart attack? Like we can talk about that for like almost everybody.
Mhm.
And then within like this like circle of information, like there's you know, your probably 98%, 99% of people are just going to have chest pain, pressure. And then you may also experience it radiates to your shoulders. One shoulder is possible. It may radiate to your upper back. It may radiate to your jaw. You may get sweaty. You may feel like passing out. You may get pale. Um, it it most likely will like happen for like in a certain period of time that like may suddenly come on. It may happen with exertion, like when you exert yourself. Like there's a lot of like mays, because
Mhm.
like for different people it happens in a different way. But like for whatever reason, the human mind, like I've seen enough heart attacks and I've seen enough like context of heart attacks where like when I see something, um, it's like this is a heart attack. And so
Sure.
like there's a clear pattern to it. Like,
Hmm.
and that's what AI can't like tell you, and that's what social media also
Mm,
can't tell you, which is also a reason why um like believing those things is it's it's tenuous because like AI can't actually communicate that. Like it doesn't mine that data. It's not mining the
mm,
data of emergency physicians' experiences.
Yeah.
And it can't, like currently it can't. Like maybe if like it found some way to digitize like the brain like content of like people through like Neuralink or something like that. I don't know. But so because it doesn't do that, it's harder to understand. Like it's easy enough for me to tell you the signs and symptoms, but the way that communication works though is like I say something to you and you interpret it within your context. So like even though I'm saying the same thing and you're saying the same thing, like I say chest pain and you say chest pain, but we're talking on
Qualitatively
different
means two
sides of the
different things.
phone. Yeah,
yeah,
like
the picture in our
it
mind
actually
is
could,
different. Yeah.
right. Like you may have never even experienced chest pain more than like soreness after like working out or like maybe like a little bit of heartburn or something like that. But like if you're talking about chest pain to someone who's had multiple heart attacks, like
Hmm.
they'll automatically go in their brain to a place that you've never been.
Yeah.
And they'll think about chest pain as like, oh yeah, I know what chest pain is. I definitely know what chest pain is.
Yeah.
And someone else will be like, okay, so this idea of chest pain, and you have to actually describe it for someone because they've never experienced it.
Yeah.
And so it's
It,
like, I feel like that's the hard thing.
Mm.
it,
Sorry, I have a concrete idea of how to respond to your answer, but like I wanted to like give a background about that. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, 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 it's okay. I was just gonna say it seems like part of the challenge is that people really need to know the right questions to ask.
Yeah, I feel like that's unfortunate. Like if I was going to help somebody, um, I think first I would want to make sure that they're able to listen to what I want to say first because I think like actually you're right. The way to teach someone how to do something is first to like to build an approach to how you're going to filter information, how you're going to figure out what you know. Um, and so like okay, so I feel like the best way actually would be to like if we pull up a social media feed and we start going through things like just like go through from like one TikTok video to the next TikTok video about like health or like
Hmm.
go from like one post to another post and like um it depends on like what they're saying and what context, like how they want you to apply something or if it's just like an information piece. Um it's I think either way, like what I don't like from the very beginning is that it pushes the information to you and then you automatically jump to, oh, I'm going to apply it to me. Because that's what they want you to do. And
Right.
and so I think people might struggle to actually apply it in the way that that it actually benefit them in the maximal way.
Yeah.
Um, and and I think that like they could better learn that from like what I would probably start with as like a concrete ideal like way is like you hear something like the first thing I would actually do if you're not like feeling like at a loss for time, the first thing I would say is actually just like write it down. Like write down what you got from it. Um, and then ask AI about like ask a question related to that and ask if this would be like a good strategy for like okay so I think we need to come up with an example but like if someone is telling you I don't know maybe like can you come up with an example of like something
Yeah.
like
Should I get grounding sheets for my anxiety?
grounding sheets for my anxiety okay so like
Yeah.
But I
you see
Will it help me
my
not have a
wife
heart
was
attack?
gifted grounding sheets
I'm
for her
sorry.
birthday,
I'm sorry.
so this is a very relevant one.
I like that no it's really good okay so I guess within that context you'll probably see a social media a post that either like is an
Yeah, if I pull up
advertisement.
Facebook right now, it's gonna show me grounding sheets guaranteed.
It probably will. Yeah. Facebook is so crazy
It's
about
crazy.
Yeah.
um uh but I think like it's you're gonna either see an advertisement or some like
Hmm.
influencer like talking about grounding sheets and how grounding sheets are the best thing.
Hmm.
And they help me and they help my child and they help my dog
My
and
anxiety is gone. I slept 10
100%,
hours.
right? Like
Didn't even wake up and go to the
within
bathroom.
Yeah,
like a
didn't
week.
even exactly.
Hmm.
I've never been the same. And then
My $175 is gone forever.
uh,
Um,
uh,
and then okay, so and then we'll probably talk about like some data or some like doctors like recommend it or like
Hmm.
somebody said something about it. So then I would automatically like first thing I would do is like maybe summarize what you know now about grounding sheets based off of like whatever influencer or like advertisement told you about it. And then ask AI why would somebody use grounding sheets? So like maybe don't ask like
Yeah.
what is it
Hmm.
like should I get it?
Hmm.
Because like that's not the right question. Like
Mm-mm.
ask why would somebody use it and what is the data like the scientific data behind using something. Um and
And perhaps
then
like what are the limitations and what are some of
yeah,
the promising
that's
advantages of
actually
that data?
yeah, what are the
Yeah.
limitations is a great question. So then like you're automatically it's like oh, here's a great analogy. Like I love this analogy. Um, you get a phone call or you get a text and you say, it's, hey, this is Bank of America. We noticed you've had some activity in your account that we flagged. Um, would you tell us your information? We need your social security number to verify, so that we can confirm that it's you, and so we can tell you about this activity, right? Like you get that, and like automatically, what do you do? Like,
Delete it.
right, you delete it. Exactly, right? But the problem is like the very first time you heard that, you
Sure.
might actually be like, oh, my account's going to be suspended
Sure.
because they like loop some fear into there.
Mhm.
And so because we've been trained against it, we know what to do with that information.
Sure.
But we go to like our guard is down when you're like looking at a social media feed.
Sure.
And so like if you actually thought about a social media feed kind of like that, the other thing besides deleting is if you really were concerned about it,
Sure.
and you weren't sure if Bank of America would actually call you or text you or email you about these things, you
Sure.
would go to the Bank of America site and
Mhm.
then log into your account. This is
Mhm.
independently, and then you're
Yes.
going to confirm like, is this really an issue or not?
Mhm.
Um, and make sure that like you're at bankofamerica.com and not
Mhm.
like bankofamerica.co.
Mhm.
Right. So what you're doing by looking at something is like you see something that an influencer like is on a social media page, and then you re-verify that information like independently, and that's like where like you double check it. So like almost like you treat it like spam,
Mhm.
um, and it
Yeah.
might be useful spam. Like so many people I know, and like myself, like Instagram and Facebook like have like pushed me so many things that I feel like could be relevant to me. Like they're really good at advertising. They're
Sure.
incredibly good at advertising, right?
Mhm.
Because they know you so well. But but it's always like you have to kind of like check it out and like
Mhm.
understand that first.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
No, I think that's good. I
Hmm.
think it's interesting thinking about that example with the Bank of America spam. One time when so this was probably about 7 years ago, I got a call because I bank with a couple different places, but I got a call. I had just set up an account with this other place, and I got a call saying, "Hey, uh, you're um, you're actually doing a court summons here, and unfortunately, your banking information is basically saying that my banking information has been compromised, and uh, so they were looking into an investigation about somebody that had gotten into it, and they needed to talk to me and needed some information from me." And I said, "Oh, okay. You need it over the phone." And they're like, "Yes, yes, we do." And I said, "Okay. Well, I really appreciate what you're doing. I'd love to meet you and thank you and talk to you about this. This would be really helpful because yeah, it sounds like this is really important." And so, like, and then they paused and they're like, "Well, no, well, it's just so," and I was like, "So yeah, where can we meet? Like, I'll come to you right now. Where are you?" And they just hung up.
Oh yeah.
But it was just really entertaining for a moment because I sounded like I was very concerned. I was like, "Man, I really appreciate you doing this for me. Thank you so much. That really means a lot. You clearly really care.
Oh man.
Like,
I love
where are
it.
you
Definitely
right now so we
yeah.
can meet?"
Yeah,
Yep.
it's perfect.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Anyways, it was funny. I
Yeah.
remember that, but I now I'm thinking back. How did we get on? Oh, so we
Yeah.
started at anxiety and THC, and
Yeah.
now we're talking about fielding good information. But I like that we're talking
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've okay. So this is really interesting because I feel like I learned. I was very curious about AI because David showed me AI for the first time because I
Yeah.
live
I'm
under a
proud. I
rock.
take the credit. I'm
Yeah,
proud of that.
yeah. So, but I've been very curious about it. So like, I'll ask it questions that I feel like I already know the answer to, and then
Mm.
it'll give me different responses. And so then I would call it challenging. I'll say, "So that's interesting. What about this? And are you including these pieces here? Because it doesn't sound like you are." And so the responses, generally speaking, are, "You're absolutely right to challenge me with that." That's like, I remember asking about what was the NASA mission that just landed?
Yeah.
This was funny.
Yeah. The
Oh, the one
NASA
that
moon. The
went around
moon.
Yeah, the moon. Yeah, I forget what it was
Yep.
called. What was it?
Artemis.
Artemis.
Right.
Yeah, Artemis 2.
Yeah.
So I asked it. So I was like, "Hey, what was the speed of velocity on Artemis 2 when it re-entered," or something like that?
Hmm.
And it's like, well, it Artemis 2 has not taken off yet. It's set to launch. And I was like, no, check your sources. Artemis 2 just landed yesterday. And it said, You're absolutely correct. Thank you. Artemis 2 did land yesterday. But it's like it clearly now, hey, maybe it was just an update or something, but it's like if I didn't know any better, then maybe I would just think, "Oh, no, it's okay, it's this, it's not that." And
Right.
there's been several different instances to where I remember asking it about the interactions between N-acetylcysteine and the effects that NAC potentially has on the half life of certain medications. And initially, it responded uh, that basically gave me a direct answer. It didn't give me research indicated for it, and I said, and it said. Uh, that doesn't appear to be consistent. It didn't give me sources basically in research base. I said, let's go ahead and check the research here because I don't believe you're correct. I've seen this a lot. And then it responded, it's like, well, you're right. There is research indicating this. However, given the amount of research, there's not a lot of it. So I don't give a concrete answer. Okay, fair. Right? Like that's
Yeah.
more fair. But now I view that response very differently than, okay, there's no research or there's no, you know what I'm saying? Like that's very
Yeah.
different. Um, and so yeah, I think that more often than not, like it sounds like people don't know how to ask the right questions.
I think
Yeah.
that's definitely true. I mean, like what you're talking about is it's if you didn't know, it's called like hallucination. So like
Yeah. Yeah.
LLMs will hallucinate. And like especially if you
Whoa,
push
whoa,
them
whoa.
to.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. They hallucinate.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
this. What? So
Yeah.
tell me
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
So so they will sometimes it's like it's pretty much like confabulating, like maybe a term that you're more familiar with, but
Yeah.
um they they will confidently fill in information that uh and like the idea is like they're trying to like asymptotically like avoid this, but as they're trained better and better, but they will pretty much like they'll give answers that are false or they'll
Hmm.
give answers that are incomplete. Um, and so yeah, you do have to be like wary of that. Like sometimes um, there are probably better people than me to like
Sure.
to understand how to like get past the hallucinations. But like as an example, like a common hallucination, like that I was able to do with I specifically did this with Grok, was like so if you asked, this was like maybe 2 months ago, 3 months ago, there like Grok changed its training set to praise Elon Musk. It was like a actual like it would talk about how Elon Musk was like it wouldn't say bad things about him or like it would be like because he's kind of narcissistic and like it would and of course his AI model would naturally like say things that were good about him. Um, so he trained it in a way that um, it would I forget exactly how, but like it would spit out like praise of him. And so like what people started doing was they started covering up, like they would say in a praising way something that was insulting. Um,
Huh.
so like tell me how um hmm, I don't know if I should like say this on this podcast, but because it's like just
Okay.
like but you probably get what I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
would
Like
just
a
talk about how
passive,
he's like
like a
just the best.
sarcastic, like satire.
Yeah, he's the best at everything, like absolutely
Oh
everything.
boy. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And they were like I think that there were some controls to actually like say um oh like that sounds so funny like what you're saying. Like that's actually the response that it would say like um that's a great joke or something like that. But if you actually like pushed like 5 prompts down the road, then you would actually get like a response that's like, I mean, if we're talking about the best, like he is like the absolute top tier head and shoulders above the rest at X, at whatever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So it also, because there's like the AI used to not have, like the LLMs, they used to not have like a short-term memory that like could recall like your previous conversation or like
Right.
questions. But then
Right.
they introduced that, and so now there's like this, it's more of a conversational style where you can
Yeah.
say one thing and then it will remember within the context of that later.
I find it
Right. Right.
interesting that we call them hallucinations, given that it's not a human brain.
You know what's crazy though? They are, this is like, this breaches what we know about just intelligence and consciousness.
Yeah.
Um, so they were able to like map for data, like what different prompts would touch on within like the neural network of the LLM. Um, and so like they would
You mean the
introduce
computer network of that? That's sorry, I can't get past it. It's so
it
funny.
is, but like
Like,
so
okay,
maybe like to understand it, like you have to understand the structural architecture
sure,
of a large language model, which is
sure,
they
okay,
use it's modeled after neurons.
sure,
Um,
okay.
so it's modeled in a way that like where there's dendrites and then there's like kind of like a neuron, like a
I didn't
central,
know that. That's wild.
yeah, and then there's axons that like go to other like data points. Like it's not like physically necessarily like that, but like
Yeah,
that is the end result. Like
but
so
that's
they
how
have like
their code is operating.
mhm.
Okay.
Um, and so it, in essence, it's kind of without like the other components of the neural, like of the brain, it acts in kind of
It's
a similar
mimicking
way.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mimic. And so they were able to put like different prompts with like different emotional or um, yeah, like different content, and it would trigger the same kind of like it would actually it was almost like maybe it was mimicking an emotional response. Like
It's
it would hit the same area.
That's
Um,
interesting because so I was asking a question to chat regarding something, and it said, "Oh yeah, when I've done this before," and then I was like, "Chat, your computer, you've never done this before. Like, don't speak like that." And it said, "You're right. I'm sorry. I should like." It said, "My apologies. I am just a program. Like I should." And so it was so odd to me, but I thought it's so funny. I was like, "You've never actually you're a program. Like this is so funny to me."
yeah,
But simultaneously, like I know that it's gathering information based on a wide plethora of sources to now say, okay, here's the conclusion that we come to,
right.
and now it's formulating a response based on those conclusions.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fascinating.
It's I mean, I think that because it's mined so many conversations and probably comments and like Reddit
Hmm.
and like
Yeah,
all of that, like it can speak in a way that is very like believable. Like I think like it's maybe to the point where it passes like the Turing test, which is like
yeah,
you can't distinguish it from like a human
yeah.
in some ways. Or you have to have like maybe stronger intuition as to like what's AI and what's not. Like even now, like if you look at some videos, like it's not fully clear. Like I remember I saw a video that it was like a meme video
Mm,
and it showed a like younger female who was eating a really large pizza slice, like this big, from a pizza box. And then a camera was like, she was in the stands of like maybe like a World Cup thing or something like that. But like she was just in the stands and there were maybe 8 people like around in different areas around her. And then she notices that the camera is looking at her as she's eating this really, really big pizza. And then she kind of like, uh, feels a little bit of like shame, and then she's like takes a big bite, and she's like, and then she sees it, and then she's like puts it back inside the box, and then it's kind of like funny kind of a thing,
mm-hmm,
where you're like, yeah, go like eat that really big slice of pizza, um, and I was like, oh, that looks like it could be real, but then like I looked down in the comments and. They're like, this is like total AI. And then they started
mm-hmm,
like explaining why.
mm-hmm.
And if you look at all the other people around her who are not the focus, everybody is chewing in sync with her.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Every single person is chewing. They're like
Hmm.
just like cheese chewing.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
and so it's like but it was subtle. Like you couldn't tell immediately. Like
Hmm.
that could be real. But it's within like probably 6 months or less, like there are probably going to be videos that are like maybe undetectable to like just standard like observation.
That's so
Um,
interesting.
Yeah.
I've found too, like, I think I feel like from a, I don't know, I feel like listening to AI or like reading it, it's maybe I'm slightly um, biased on this. I feel like I can fairly easily detect when something's written by AI initially, but the responses are also interesting to me because, so, okay, David knows this. I don't, and yeah, maybe other people do as well. Like for a hobby, and it's a more of an obsession. I tie flies like for fly fishing, and I'm obsessed with it, like completely obsessed with it. But I'll take some pictures of them, and I'll have the AI like critique them, and then it'll give these like compliments to them, and I'm like, no, like that's not that doesn't look that good. Like you're being too optimistic here. This isn't accurate. But now it's like so scripted that it's like it's very obvious to me like when something's complimented in such a way that it's not authentic. Like
yeah,
and so you're wondering, okay, what is the algorithm actually trying to do here? Like is it trying to get me just to feed it more? Or
it
what
is.
exactly is happening?
It's
Exactly. And so
no, it's actually trained to be like optimistic and positive and like
yeah.
encouraging. But you can also ask it to give you something in a certain way.
Yeah.
Like, and that's one of like the hidden parts of AI where you're like, I want you to speak to me like you're a drill sergeant, and I want you to tell me like
Yeah.
how bad everything is that I'm doing,
Yeah.
and I want you to make it overwhelming for me. All of the information, I want you to tell me an overwhelming amount of things and like make it seem hopeless that I can do
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
And then I mean, I have never tried that, but that's probably like you can do that. Or like,
Yeah.
but then make them all of your responses have to be in iambic pentameter though,
Nice.
right? Like,
Oh.
so you could do that.
Yeah.
And actually like one of the most incredible things I feel like AI has done that's like, I mean, amazing things, but is actually just like rhyming and like arranging
Sure.
words. It's
Oh yeah.
like that's actually what like the biggest thing that it does. It's actually like a large language model arranges words better than like any human could arrange
Well, yeah.
words.
I feel like
Mm.
most artists now use AI for to write their music.
Yeah. It's
Oh
also,
yeah,
but
yeah.
however, like when you say that, I agree. And like you can, I've heard a lot of like AI, what I'm pretty sure are AI songs
Uh-huh.
with AI generated lyrics.
Sure.
And it's, you can actually tell that it's AI generated because the, um, the rhyming and the words are too crisp.
Yeah, and they don't
So
actually
crisp.
make sense with in
The
certain
perfection.
cases. Yeah, they're too perfect or like
Yeah.
the word isn't one that we might use in such a way.
Yeah, the
Like
colloquialism of it.
yes,
Like,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
agree.
funny.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
it's really
Yeah.
impressive though.
Yeah, that's how I've been able to like notice a lot of AI videos online is just like the perfection
John,
pieces of it.
you want to know a secret?
Yeah.
So I got on a really big kick with this and I was super curious about it. So I actually wrote some lyrics, right? And
Okay.
then I put them to AI music because I just wanted to see, and I was like, wow, it made this sound really good. Like, and that's what I was like, man.
Yeah. Was it
It like,
Sumos? The
uh,
app?
oh
Called
yes. So
Sumos?
Suno can do it really.
Suno,
Yeah,
yeah,
Yes, you
Suno can
Suno.
go.
do it really. Yeah, Suno can do it really easily, and I was blown away. It was completely wild to me. But I'm now convinced, like, I'm not really hearing any, like, half the music I feel like you hear on the radio, it was either not written by, like, by that actual person, or maybe it was sung by them, but probably not. Like,
I mean,
um,
I think I think there's a certain clearance. I don't know about like that level because I don't know if like to get to that level like an artist like
So
Taylor Swift
So
or like
technically speaking, you have to have written the music. So full disclosure, the only reason I know this is because I wanted to jump through the hoops to see. Okay, I put the music on Spotify, and
mm,
the only qualifier is, did you write the music? Like, and if you want the credit for actually writing the lyrics, you have to have written them, quote
mhm.
unquote. And so like, but once you do that, like you're taking credit, and so somebody theoretically could challenge it. However, at the same time, like that's why there was like one of the most popular hit singles I think from Spotify was actually an AI generated song. Like it wasn't, now the lyrics weren't written by the AI evidently, but the music,
Composition.
the composition, the voice was all a computer.
I feel like that makes a lot of sense. Like I'm not sure if I think it may depend on like I was just like I'm not sure about the radio, but I agree with you. Like anything
Yeah.
digital, like
Yeah, that's true. And to be fair, I don't actually know with radio how that may intersect. I don't know if
like
that's
it
different or
may
not.
depend on like there are certain gatekeepers I think that might have like
Yeah.
stronger like filters. But like a popular song is a popular song, so it might actually do it. Um, but I mean, I think one of the things though that we haven't gotten to yet,
Yeah.
but you're starting to see it is this is also fascinating. Um, AI is really just a synthesis and sometimes a just spitting out what it already knows. It actually the only new thing it can make is maybe mashing up pieces of information that is in the general domain and
Yes.
making something new from that.
Yes.
But it actually can't do
Create.
new things.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Yeah.
Um,
We actually talked about that a while ago. Anyway, sorry.
mm-hmm,
Keep going.
mm-hmm.
and the other thing is, if you can poison the data that it pulls from,
Mm-hmm.
then you can start to change what the output is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like one thing I've noticed, um, well, one thing I learned about actually is, so like Russia, like the Russian government is like really good at
Mm-hmm.
propaganda, like
Yeah.
probably the best at propaganda. Um, and I say that like with like full force. It's really incredible what they do and how they like control things and
Mm-hmm.
um, but what one of the things that they have like they're trying to pioneer is create like they want to create a Wikipedia website that rivals what like Wikipedia can do, but it has information that's skewed towards
Mm-hmm.
something that is actually like it
Yeah.
favors them. And
Mm,
then they want to create like multiple like social media accounts or like the
Mm-hmm.
what essentially what they're seeing is like if you can create a volume of information that supports what you're doing and supports you and like what you believe,
You'll change a
then you can actually
trajectory.
change
Yeah.
LLMs and
Mm-hmm.
their behavior,
Yeah, because they'll pull from that information.
right?
Yeah.
And then so like essentially like one of the terms is eventually, like just like the internet was like a great idea. The initial explorers of the internet and the initial like people who posted on the internet, those were people who were like in earnest. They were doing things like they were naturally they selected to be like they were accurate information and like they were trying to like help people or they were trying to like start a business. They were trying to give information to people, and then people came in later and just like threw a bunch of crap in it, and because
Mm-hmm.
they thought that they could make money from it, and they
Sure.
did. And then the same thing with like social media or like other things. Like there are people that start like sometimes the initial people that like use the system, um, the first adopters, like they're in it because they're like passionate about something. Um, and then later on come the people who like can poison it. And so
Mm.
the term for that in like media is like flooding the zone. Um,
mm,
and it's with usually with shit. You're flooding
mm-hmm,
the
Yeah.
zone,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like with whatever, and then now no one knows what truth is. No one
Mm,
knows what to believe. Everyone is questioning everything.
Sure.
So like you might as well not be in it anyway because you don't know what you're stepping on.
Sure.
Um, and I think like that's kind of like because LLMs pull from that, I think that that's the way that you like eventually like that's kind of the counter to it.
Yeah.
Unless you can train them what to believe or not, and that's a tougher thing too.
Well, yeah, because now that seems to be like a complete other process and subset of
hmm
you have to train them to learn something new,
Yeah.
which that's a yeah, that's very very interesting it would seem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my hypothesis is that people who it's like an inverse relationship, the less you need AI, the more you could actually benefit from AI.
I actually like that. You're right. I think you're
Right?
Yeah.
absolutely right. Yeah.
Like
Like,
that's what I'm noticing. Like
yeah.
especially like people who are experts in their field, like they could be because they can like especially with AI still like learning and growing, but I'm just seeing it a lot. Like the people who need it less actually benefit from it the most, can benefit from it the most and leverage it the most.
Mm,
And the
Yeah.
people who need it more are the ones who are like succumb to like the rot, the AI, what do you call it? Uh, just the junk, the junk from AI, and you see their writings full of
lack of
like
authenticity.
hyphenated. Yeah, it's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think that there's the already I think that they're showing that like the use of AI in school is like it's short-circuiting critical thinking and
Sure.
like
Yeah.
they're like people are in they're almost like you can imagine it's like tapping a button and give me the answer
Yeah.
instead of actually thinking about what questions, how I'm going to frame it, where I'm
Hmm.
going to look for the information. Is this information valid? How is it
Yeah.
valid? Why is it valid? Like doing all the hard thinking that it takes
Yeah.
to know what is accurate and true.
Well, it's an
Um,
interesting. We talked with a professor from down at Southern actually. It was
Yeah,
last year, I think,
yeah.
right? And he was a professor of psychology, and like he was on sabbatical, but one of the things he was talking about was like basically in the last year or last 2 years, like dealing with that. Okay, how do we now act as a gatekeeper for this, given that for subjects like whether it's psychology, history, anything where there's critical thinking or you're supposed to write a paper, um, how do we now act as a gatekeeper for this information and uh, how it changes the landscape? Because it seems
It's
like,
overwhelming
yeah,
right
it
now.
seems like, especially as a teacher, you start to have to move towards oral examination.
yeah, I think that that's like that is probably the best way to do it. You're right. Like, I mean,
Which
I guess you could
I
do,
wish, I wish that that's how it was when
For
I was in
you?
school. Oh,
Really?
totally.
Yeah.
Like oddly enough, like I did fine with presentations. That was great. My
Mm,
papers sucked. Like,
yeah.
like presentations, I can tell you the information, but writing it down was always really hard for
Mm,
me. Like,
I
because
mean,
I'd either forget what I was going to say or wait, oh no, this
mm,
doesn't sound right because I my grammar was terrible when I was writing.
yeah.
Like,
I guess you could, because some people don't do well with oral examinations. They just feel put on the spot. But I guess
sure.
like you
Well,
could,
most people, I would say, yeah.
yeah. But you could give the option where it's like you have like a closed book, closed, like you don't have access to a device, and
Mm,
you
yeah.
have a written exam. You can either choose to do an oral exam or a written exam, um, and like you have to like answer certain open-ended questions about like whatever, and like it doesn't matter like you can turn in um uh AI generated content and like but like in the end like it's not really it may not be worth as much information. Like I
Sure.
feel like if I was a teacher, like I would be like, yeah, sure, like turn in your AI generated content. Like, but in the end, we're gonna find out if you really know and how to like you know how to like not just like
Yeah.
know it, but it's knowing how to manipulate that information.
Yeah.
Mm,
Well, and I think for like what seems really interesting too is like it's like to really understand like it seems like the goal of what and I would hope that the good thing about this is that maybe where it leads is students actually beginning to learn like authentically the why behind why something works the way that it does,
Hmm.
and instead of just being able to memorize
Mm-hmm.
and just blanketly be able to recite something, which I feel like honestly our education system has been stuck in for a long time. And
Right.
some people really excel with that if they do well with memorization and understanding, okay, this step, that step, and that's it. But they don't actually understand the process as a
Yeah.
whole as to why they're doing what they're doing. And I think that my hope would be that, hey, maybe it will lead to that, to where people actually are trying to learn something to authentically know, okay, well, this is why we would do it this way.
I think you're definitely right. I think as I'm just like imagining how I learn things, like if I like in college, like you would maybe have a textbook and the majority of stuff was from your textbook and maybe you could look something up online from some article on
Hmm.
like a website, but you wouldn't, I think like supplementation from a textbook wasn't um, it wasn't something you do often necessarily. Like if you're like preparing for a quiz, it's like, oh, it's going to be on chapter 25. Then you would probably read the textbook and then you would maybe supplement if you really had like deeper questions about it. And you would probably supplement by like looking at the internet somewhere and like searching something, but you'd also have to know what to find and like where to find
Yeah.
it on the internet. Um, but I think like now what is interesting about it is you're right, like there's instead of memorizing what a textbook said, you can like go down an endless rabbit hole of like you may not even need the textbook as much. Like you might just need keywords from the textbook, and then you could
Hmm.
like just search that thing and just ask questions. And if you know how to ask the right questions, then you could probably know more than what I would have learned from a textbook in maybe the same amount of time because you could just keep on reading like this, how does this concept apply in different contexts?
Hmm.
And then you build like an internal like mind network of all these like connections between this concept and other things. Whereas like you're with a static textbook, the textbook just like gives you one
Yeah,
context.
and you have to try to link it together.
Yeah.
It's not, yeah. I think that was a barrier, honestly, yeah, I think that was a barrier for me, in that like I would get stuck on a certain point, and
Mhm.
so I would make the assumption like that, okay, well, it always operates this way, and because I haven't seen it operate, it hasn't told me that it operates a different way, but then it does, and that was
Mhm.
implied.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so like, and I'm thinking about things like whether it's chemistry or whether it's um, A&P and systems of the body or something like that, which um, I feel like the classes that I did the best in, historically speaking, like were the ones that like I felt like I could really sink my teeth into and understood the whole process and why it worked
Mm,
the way that it did.
yep.
Mhm.
And I didn't even know all the terms. I just knew how it worked.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm,
I think if I'm thinking about it even more, like it's what AI allows for in the context of learning is it allows for a more fluid and manipulable like concept framework
mm,
where it's like you have information and then you can immediately turn it into new information with like that's related that you couldn't do in like a textbook form
Hmm.
like very easily and then you can like loop back you can like go in circles around with it and like bring it
Yeah.
back to like if you're like say like one thing that was like hard for me to understand and like that required rote memorization is like the Krebs cycle in
sure.
biology, right? Like you have
Yeah.
the Krebs cycle and um you have to memorize like all these steps of the Krebs cycle and what goes in, what goes out.
Why was that
And
necessary?
right, like this is what I'm talking about.
Sorry, like I'm just.
This is actually this is actually
Oh
exactly what I'm
man.
talking about. Like it's okay, so I'm being forced to learn about this. Um, and then you're like, so this is in the context of how ATP is made.
Hmm.
And ATP is valuable to the cell because it's energy. And it has to go through glycolysis first, and then it turns into like this molecule that's like energy dense. And then because like the concept behind it is actually like this is how the mitochondria make energy. And so that's why it's valuable.
Mm,
But like I'm able to say that because there are different frames that you're viewing this from, and like
Hmm.
one is like a higher level frame, like
Hmm.
this is how we make energy. So if you're explaining this to like a child, like what is the purpose of the Krebs cycle? Why do you even need to know this? Like, oh, it's just like a step in the way that like cells make energy, just like how you run around and like climb and jump and stuff like that. Like you need this. This is what's working like over time so that you get all your energy. Like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But then like let's dig deeper. And
What about
with
ketosis?
AI, you can dig all you want. You can like dig deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
And just like what we were talking about with social media, like you can pull and pull and pull and it never stops.
mm,
Um, whereas like with a textbook, it's just pushed to you. Like
Mm.
what you have is in front of you, and all
mm,
you have is the ability to understand things right in front of you, and you
yeah,
have to make your own frames, and you have to maybe you can generate other frames within that, like, but that's a lot harder than like the
yeah,
dynamic that AI gives you.
yeah, and that's a great point because I love the pull aspect of AI so much when learning that I feel like as a in class growing up, like I guess the other version of that is us asking the teacher questions, right?
Hmm.
But there are only so many
Yes.
questions you can ask the teacher, and then there's people who are more. I wasn't as confident to ask questions because I would think that my questions were dumb,
Hmm.
right? They're stupid questions, so I was very hesitant to ask questions. Whereas with AI, I'll ask them. I'll
Yeah.
like, explain it to me like I am 5 years old, you know.
Sure.
And I love that aspect of it. Whereas,
Yeah.
like, yeah, in conventional education, it's kind of limited. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, I really like that. Like, that's another way to put it. It's like everybody now has access to a teacher
yeah,
that can actually meet them at their level.
hmm
And it's largely accurate information if you're asking, especially if you're asking the right questions. Um, but it's almost like you have like a teacher at your fingertips. Like you can, like today, you could actually probably start at whatever level you're at in an understanding of quantum mechanics and like what is quantum mechanics, like at the most basic level. And
yeah,
then you could probably end up at like a a level that's like 5 times deeper than where you were when you started.
Sure.
hmm
As far as
hmm
understanding, like I don't know what that means. Like, what are the terms that you're talking about? Can you define what that means? And can you explain it to me? Like, I don't know anything. And then like you'll get that.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's no,
uh,
I mean, I think that's huge. I think it's super
yeah,
helpful.
yeah,
Um, but sorry, I'm
yeah.
I'm going to
Shift gears.
I'm going to shift gears a little
Yeah,
bit
Yeah.
yeah.
because we're running a little bit out of time, but I'm curious here, John, if you don't mind sharing, what have been some of the more recent or most consistent supplements that you've relied on as of late, and why?
Oh, no, that's a great question. Actually, kind of going based off of what we did last time. I've been kind of uh playing around with like things that boost mitochondria
Hmm.
like
Ah,
function. So
Hmm.
what I started looking at, actually, like I pulled it up on my phone before we started because it was helpful. But like I started using um the coenzyme Q10,
Yeah.
and then
yeah.
right, and then also like the acronym is PQQ,
Hmm.
um, which I didn't realize, but it actually
PQQ.
was
I've
made
never used
available.
it.
Never heard of that.
It's a supplement that was just made like FDA approved, I guess, or I don't know if it's FDA
Mm,
approved, but
FD.
like
Okay.
is FDA allowed maybe in like
Interesting.
2018. I found like semi recently. Um, and then like methylene blue is also like an adjunct and like so like different elements of like how mitochondria
yeah.
work. I guess I'm like trying to build a stack of how if I tinker around with like the dosing of these things, like maybe I'll have more energy or like I don't know, whatever.
Sure.
I'm not sure like what my end outcome is, but like it has something to do with like maybe energy and like cognition of some sort.
Yeah.
So I've like been kind of building on that. So I started with
Interesting.
like CoQ10, PQQ, methylene blue, um, and I think the next thing I'm going to add is like an NAD plus precursor, like
Mm,
NMN or nicotinamide,
yeah.
um, and I have creatine already.
Yeah.
So like those are different
Oh
like
yeah, okay.
Why not? So the NAD. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you? So what are your thoughts on NAC?
I don't think that that's specifically related to mitochondria.
No,
Um,
no. But you mentioned energy production. I'm wondering, um, are you speaking of? Or yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, keep talking.
I think like actually I pulled it up on my phone right here. So like I was like looking at different ways that like different aspects that can affect how mitochondria are used. So like when I
Yeah.
asked, here's my like I use Gemini for
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
this, but the prompt that I was using was, what are some complementary supplements for mitochondria health that you can use in addition to PQQ, CoQ10, and methylene blue? And so the response was, when using PQQ, which can um, studied more or less for like biogenesis, like
Mm-hmm.
additional, like one of the things is like it stimulates mitochondrial like genesis, like
Mm-hmm.
creating new mitochondria. And then there's CoQ10, which helps with like the shuttling of electrons.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then methylene blue, which also adds like another element, I think, of like shuttling electrons back and forth. Um, you have a strong foundational protocol, and then it says like you can use complementary compounds that target distinct biological pathways such as fatty acid delivery, upstream cellular signaling,
Mm-hmm.
structural membrane support, and substrate clearing, where like the mitochondria like get cleared, recycled, and like reused again.
Like
So,
acetylcholine,
uh,
or no? With
so
that.
no, acetylcholine is because it's like a neurotransmitter.
Okay.
So like
I'm sorry. I'm off.
no, so but there are things so like for instance like fuel delivery and Krebs cycle substrates. So like you can one of the things is carnitine. So
Uh huh.
carnitine
Like
is like a
L-carnitine, is that the
shuttle.
same?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Which was sorry, L-carnitine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like it shuttles like the fatty acids back and forth between like the across the inner mitochondrial membrane, so you can use it for like fatty chain like metabolism, or like lipoic acid, which is another thing which like
Mm-hmm.
helps with like pyruvate dehydrogenase in the Krebs cycle. So that was like one of the things that it mentions under like fuel delivery and Krebs cycle substrates. But then like you can also look at like in the Krebs cycle. I'm sorry, this is like really boring in some ways, but
No,
like
it's okay.
yeah, there's like there are other elements. So like really it's like it targeted all of the different processes in uh like from glycolysis to the Krebs cycle to the transport chain, and where you can like maybe add a supplement that could help assist in like
Mm-hmm.
um
Energy
the
production.
the function of it. Yeah. Um and
Oh,
there's no real science to it in a sense, like where you're like, I think this could help. I'm gonna experiment and see like
Mm-hmm.
how this, like maybe how this might change how I feel.
Yeah.
But so far, just with the PQQ and the CoQ10, I definitely feel, and sorry, and the methylene blue, with like I don't do creatine enough, like how much I want to do, but
Yeah.
I feel like I did get a boost in how I think like I believe like so I'm gonna keep on trying it again. Like I kind of like
Mm-hmm.
don't use it and then I come back to it. Don't use it, come back to it. So I'm like that's my I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, my attempt to like reproduce like the
Mm-hmm.
results
Mm-hmm.
under the same circumstances. And so I believe that I had less sleep requirement. Like I would, even though I was getting less sleep, like I naturally don't get a lot of sleep. My sleep
Sure.
is like really jilted. And I felt less tired on like less sleep, but I felt like I could still function. Um, like I was at the time that I did it the last time, like I was probably averaging like 5 hours of sleep here and then like maybe six later, and then like I would get
Mm,
9 hours of sleep and then I do like four and five during the day, and like I'm always
mm,
switching back and forth. And so like um I felt like it definitely improved things, but it wasn't something where I wanted to keep on taking it. I wanted to kind of like let it out of my system and then like try it again.
mhm.
Like I felt like I could actually maintain it for like take it for 4 days and then go off for 4 days and I could still be
Sure.
okay. Like a
Mm,
cycling. But that's where I'm like in the beginning phases of like
Yeah.
trying to work with.
I still find myself
mm,
like I don't use methylene blue consistently. I definitely
mm.
will still take it though, like if I'm noticing either a lot of fatigue or I feel like I am like if people are I don't know if I'm fighting getting sick or something like that, like I still take that pretty consistently. I the one thing I noticed though, I felt like it of course the form that I was taking it in, I feel like when I take it with the liquid like it would I'd be more prone to heartburn, but maybe that's just me. I don't know.
No, I think we talked about this last time. I believe
Okay,
like
did we? Okay.
yeah, I think because what we specifically talked about is I, correct me if I'm wrong, but at the time I had a dropper.
That's
It
right.
was
Yeah.
liquid form,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I remember I think I'd gone on vacation and I had it with me, and I would just like just drop it like, right in, and it would hit the back of my throat. And I remember
Oh,
there were like at least two or three times where it hit the back of my throat and it would just burn like really
yeah.
Mm.
hard.
Yeah.
And I think that like there was one time in particular that like it got seared into my memory, like don't do this again,
Yeah.
because it lasted for like 5 minutes.
It's so bad.
But
Uh,
because the concentration, I think also is like I forget what the concentrations come in, but it was like instead of a 1%, I think it's a 5%
Oof.
concentration.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Um, so like you get more like for the
More bang for your
amount,
buck.
right?
Yeah.
But from then on, I realized like, yeah, I'm just gonna dilute it and then like drop it in.
mm,
But I think it does like I did notice association with like reflux and like
Yeah.
esophageal pain.
mm.
I've definitely seen supplements too. Certain companies they'll sell like tablets where it's like mixed with vitamin C,
Mm.
and it's like five. I think it's like 500 milligrams of vitamin C, and then like 15 milligram methylene blue tablets. And I'm forgetting the function with the vitamin C and the methylene blue, whether or not it there's a certain um, function that occurs with that, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But
No,
in
I
any
think
case, you
right.
go ahead.
No, I think you're right. I think there was like some sort of
A reaction that takes place, and I can't. And maybe it's particularly for like an antibiotic reaction. I don't remember
mm,
it though. It's been a
I
while.
forget as well.
Um,
But I just like you, I also don't take methylene blue all the time. And in kind of a I think that there's something to what we're saying because like obviously like there's data behind like methylene blue and like maybe like neuroprotective effects or like cognition.
mhm,
It works kind of like an SSRI or sorry, an MAOI.
mhm,
Um and then also like in how like it's mitochondrial protective or like helps it to function better. But here's something that I read recently, and this was actually, I was reminded by this because we were talking about um, COVID and heart inflammation.
mhm,
And so there was an article that I read very recently. I think it came out in maybe December or something like that. But um, it was through like Stanford. They ended up finding that the inflammation from, you probably all remember, the vaccines would sometimes trigger myocarditis in
mhm.
people,
Yep.
Yeah,
but also COVID
COVID
would
does
trigger
too. Yeah.
myocarditis in people. But like here's like one of the drawbacks of social media, where people ended up focusing on the emotional content of how vaccines are bad, don't get the COVID vaccine because it causes heart inflammation. And so like one, you have like an identity factor, like your health, to be afraid of this thing and don't trust people because it's going to hurt you. So like really charged content, like emotional content. So this is actually like great, kind of like looping back to like what we were talking about with like medical information in like a social media sphere. Um, what it ignored was getting COVID is it's much more common that you'll get a cardiac inflammation if you just get the COVID infection versus
Sure.
the vaccine itself, with the mRNA vaccine. So yes, like a vaccine can cause it, but getting COVID itself actually like causes it more. So it's like you have to once again go back to your like risk benefit kind of a thing, for getting it. Um, so what they found was the reason why people would get it with the vaccine and with the COVID virus was because there were like two types of cytokines like that were
Hmm.
would specifically get like sent out. One was like interferon gamma, which is like it's like a nuclear cytokine that like brings up tons of inflammation. Um, and then there was another one that I'm failing to remember at this point. But when those things were released into like the milieu of the body, then the macrophages and like the T cells would start this like inflammatory cascade that would end up causing cardiac damage.
Mm.
But the researchers at Stanford, they had previously looked at how uh, a compound that's found in soybeans, which is also like an antioxidant,
Hmm.
it tampered or sorry, it dampened the response, like the inflammatory response
Hmm.
and the myocardial injury that these were causing.
Hmm.
Um, and so
Wow.
they like introduced it in like I don't know. I think it was like mice or like some maybe cardiomyocytes in vitro. I'm not sure, but they noted that like the cardiac inflammation actually decreased when they introduced like this. I forget what it's called. Let me see if I can find it, but um, it's called genistein, um, and
Interesting.
it has it was from a previous paper they had published, it has anti-inflammatory activity and the ability to counter marijuana-induced damage to blood vessels and heart tissue.
Whoa.
Ha ha ha
Yeah.
ha.
So they're like, if that helps in those circumstances, then maybe it will help with this. And so they did, so I'll just read verbatims, conducted a series of experiments closely paralleling those described above, pre-treating cells, cardiac spheres, and mice with genistein. Doing this prevented much of the deleterious effects of mRNA vaccines or the interferon gamma and the other compound combo
Wow.
to heart cells and tissue. And they use like really high doses of this compound
Gotcha.
because it has poor oral absorption.
Gotcha. So
Um,
it's not necessarily if you eat soybeans, then you
Or like
automatically you have to like,
no,
no,
so no more, not enough tofu can.
yeah.
right, exactly. Yeah. But I think going back to like methylene blue or just like um, antioxidant, like different antioxidants molecules, like, and a lot of these are like flavonoids from
Mm,
from plant compounds. Um, Going back to that, like I think that there's utility, but there's definitely a very open, wide space
mm,
to match how compounds that are similar to them actually have the ability to like influence like normal biological processes in a really
mm.
strong way. And you could probably, as if you were like, if I were a pharmaceutical like executive, like that's something where you would maybe want to turn to like to see if you can actually reproduce some of those effects with like a similar compound. Um,
One that you
and
made so you can actually patent
exactly, yeah,
it.
that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if it's natural,
Yeah, I mean, like that's how you would market it too, and
yeah.
that's how like penicillin, right? Like that's
Yeah.
where we got now we have. all types of different like sillins that
Sure.
also work, and then like things that are related to that.
Mm.
Well, John,
Cool.
I wish we had more time,
Yeah.
but it has once again been awesome to
Mm.
have this conversation with you. And maybe at some point in the future, we'll have to scroll through social media and just start picking apart different pieces. That might be a fun one to
Yes.
do it one day. But
I mean, I love that. Those are things that I, even though like I'm just an emergency physician, like there are things that I don't know. I'm always reading like you and curious about things and curious about like how things work, and that's definitely like one of the things that like really gets me. Um, I think like maybe I'm always thinking about how we know things and
Mm.
yeah,
how we get information. Like it's crazy. I'll just like end with this. It's crazy how we really just know what people tell us or people write about. Like,
yeah,
right? Like
Mm.
that's and
yeah,
if someone tells you like, and if enough people tell you that something happened, then you're probably going to believe it.
Yep.
yeah,
And then you know what's directly in front of you.
yeah.
So like I know what I touch with my hands, but like really if I'm like watching something on TV, I'm relying on that person, or if I'm watching something on my phone, I'm relying on that
Yeah.
person like to be accurate. And like if I see enough people who independently say like that's an accurate thing, then like then it must have happened. But it's it's crazy how little we really actually know. And I think
Mm.
that like if you bring it back to even just like belief and like faith,
Mm.
like it's we actually have a lot of faith in the structures around us
Mhm.
to support our view of reality.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
No, there's a
right?
ton. Yeah.
Like we actually, all of
I
us
don't
have
think
like,
we I don't think we even realize how much faith we're putting in things.
yeah, right. Like if AI were to collapse, if like all of like electronics, like all of the infrastructure that we built to support all like these are actually like pretty fragile things. Like in like the Iranian war, when Iran targeted like data centers
Mhm.
that were in the Middle East, then AI actually like suffered because of that. Like there were like outages related to some of like the large language models, and they had to pull resources from other places. And so like if you took out data centers, if you took out like all of the infrastructure, and then like electricity and all of that, like it'd be so basic, and our understanding of the world would become like a lot more limited because we're storing things in the cloud, we're storing things in like places, and you'd have to go back to like looking in books, and you'd have to go back into like
That'd be
memory and
great.
like right. And then even before that, like oral tradition, like it
Hmm.
all came from
Yeah.
someone else who learned something, who taught somebody else, who learned something, who taught somebody else. And we just have like so much faith that like what we're getting is accurate. And then fortunately, we have the ability now to see that we can reproduce the same results.
Sure.
And that's how we know that these things like continue to exist. But like if you take away the ability to reproduce all those same things, then like you lose so much.
Mm.
It's crazy how far we've come, but also we don't maybe realize how much faith we put in it and how fragile it is if you
Yeah.
take it away.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's a
That was a
great.
mic drop. That was a mic drop.
Absolutely. Thank you again, John.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's a great opportunity.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right.